This just isn't my day. Alright, welcome to build video number 4 of the Carbon Cub. We're moving right along. We're going to get into the motor and the ESC. That's the first thing we're going to start off with here. So we got the Power 60. We're going to open that up. We opened it up already on the unboxing video, but you can see there's a couple things. Bunch of connectors, the X mount. And it comes with the Cowl style prop adapter. We opted to go with this one. I like this style better. It actually bolts onto the bell housing of the motor. So I just don't like these Cowl style ones. So some people have good luck with them. I feel like on an airplane this big, I don't want to use it, but it just does that. And when you clamp the propeller on, it squeezes, and that's it. I don't like that.
And what was the other?
So anyway, let's open this up. So now what this does, bolts on to, you can see the 3 holes, not 3 holes, it bolts onto the bell. But I'm sure you see the issue already. The motor shaft is sticking up. So you have 2 options here. You can undo all the set screws on the shaft. There's 3. I don't want to do that just because I don't want to break those factory connections, and I don't want the bell flopping around. I want to leave the factory tolerances. This is just my choice. I'm gonna blue tape this thing up really nice so all that's exposed is the shaft, and I'm gonna lop it off with my Dremel. Obviously that's a destructive modification because you can never go back to this Cowl style, but I'm fine with that because I never planned to go back to this Cowl style. I will always use this style. So I'm just gonna lop it off, call it good, and then we can bolt this right on. All right, so let's get this taped up real good. You do not, if you do opt for the lop off technique, do not just do it until you cover this all up. You do not want all those metal shavings in here. Seal this up good. So let's get to sealing this up with some blue tape. So all the openings, everything's covered up. The only part is we're just gonna lop off that little bit of shaft.
Flush with the...
Yeah, as flush as we can. Then we can do a file if we have to just do light file work at the end. Okay. But got the Dremel with the cutoff wheel, just boop. I'm sure there's some people cringing that I cut that shaft off, but I don't ever plan on using it anyway. All right, it looks good. So it looks like there's gonna be plenty of clearance. Yeah, looks good. Oh yeah. So you can see, lopped off the top, and then there's the recess in here, and you can see the 3 screw holes, so it's kind of obvious how it's gonna mount. Just goes like that. I feel like that is a way better way to attach the propeller.
And then you screw the propeller on like
Yep.
that. Yep.
Here's the part number, guys. So this is right from the Horizon Hobby site. I ordered this prop adapter at the same time I ordered the airplane. So in the baggie, it comes with these, looks like M3s, and it comes with a little Allen key. That's it. So we got the Loctite on. Nice, superior way to mount the propeller.
Nice.
Next step is the X mount. Nice big chunky aluminum piece. That goes on the bottom. So you can see some countersunk holes. There's 4 of those. Okay, here's those countersunk ones that we need for the X mount. It's pretty obvious. The blind nuts, those are for the back. As you can see, the blind nuts are not installed yet.
So you insert.
So we gotta do that.
Okay.
And then 4 washers. Feels good.
Nice.
Okay, there's that.
Yep.
Nice and clean, nice big strong mount, nice strong propeller adapter. Now we got the motor pod. So this is pretty important. Here's the battery tray, and you can see it is angled, so I know it might look wonky. It's supposed to be like that. This is the thrust angle. See how it notches into the back of the battery box? Or sorry, the firewall?
Yep, okay.
So that's the bottom.
Okay.
That means the motor goes up here.
Sits on top.
And you can see how
Upper right.
it's not centered because that's part of the thrust angle. So it's built right into the firewall. So the firewall, I don't know if you've noticed, but is not square on the plane. So when this mounts up, it's actually gonna have a thrust angle to it.
Okay.
So that's just part of the plane.
So don't freak out.
So leave it, don't fix it, because you'll ruin it. If you try to make it 90, you'll ruin it, so don't fix it. So let's get this mounted up. Okay, so I'm looking through my ESC and the connectors and just kind of planning out where I'm gonna put all this stuff. And then I realized that the connectors that come pre-soldered on the Power 60, the motor, those came like that, are not the correct plugs for the ESC. They just...
Oh, the ESC requires a lot connector.
Larger.
Yeah.
So, the ESC comes with the correct connectors. You can see they are a little more stout. These are what plug in there. Okay. So I have to desolder these off the motor, solder these guys on. Back to the solder station.
And the ESC you're using is the Talon 90?
Castle Talon 90.
Okay.
Solder these guys on, solder station. All right, so we finished soldering all the connectors on, the right ones that fit into the Talon 90. So here you go. So you can see they fit now. Basically you have to unsolder, if you're gonna use the Talon 90, you gotta unsolder the connectors that come on the Power 60 and then put the bigger ones on that the Talon comes with. Super easy, just gotta change out the bullet connectors. My advice though, do not cut the wires and resolder because you need this wire. So I desoldered the connectors and I don't recommend you cut the wires because now you're shortening your wire every time. It's super easy to desolder the old ones and you can just keep them too. So another thing that we're noticing here, the blind nuts and the hardware, the blind nuts and the bolts that come with the motor are different than the ones that come with the plane. So you can see the blind nuts and the bolts that come with the plane are actually a lot smaller and thinner than the ones that come with the motor. So I am gonna use the ones that come with the motor because these bolts fit the X-brace perfectly. So it's gonna really lock that motor in nice. And they're just bigger, so, stronger. The problem with using the ones that come with the plane, these bolts are skinny, too skinny for the X-mount holes, so that the motor can potentially, slop around a little bit. The problem with using the blind nuts that come with the motor, they don't fit in the holes that are pre-drilled in the firewall. So we are going to drill out the holes in the motor mount with an 11/64, and that will fit the bigger blind nuts. So you got a couple little things you got to change around here, and let's drill these holes out. I'm just gonna open them up just a teeny bit, and then the blind nuts will fit. So we just opened up the holes a little bit with the 11/64. These are the blind nuts that come with the motor, and you can see they go in perfectly. So the teeth will go in as we tighten it up.
Okay.
I'm just gonna dab a little CA in that hole. All right, looking good. We have the holes drilled out, so they're ready to fit the new blind nuts that come with the motor. You can see I've marked where my ESC goes. It's going on the left-hand side, and the motor wires, you want them kind of poking out to the left because that's where the ESC is gonna go. So we're gonna get these started, and then we'll put some thread lock on the back. Once you get the blind nuts in the hole, I know this is really hard to see right now. I'll show you here after I get this kind of stabilized. All right, we got one of the blind nuts started, so you can see it. You can see it in there. The teeth are about to grab. Blind nut. Ah, looking good. All the blind nuts in there. We're gonna start tightening it. The bolts kind of flop around at first, but once you put the blind nut in, it centers it up nice. You might have to hold it at first until it grabs. There it goes, it's already grabbing. All right, they're all tight, mounted up, nice and strong, looking good. So we had a little issue. I went to mount the ESC, and remember earlier I told you to put the wires on the side so you can make them go to the ESC. It actually was not long enough. So I had to undo the motor mount and we put the wires on the bottom. So we got,
We tested it and made sure.
yeah, I tested it and it does fit. It's just barely long enough to fit into the castle. All right, so next step is to mount the ESC on the side here. But before we do that, I got to solder on my XT90. So I'm going to do that. XT90 soldered up on the ESC. These XT90s require some heat. And get in there, like all soldering, you got to get the heat in quick and get out of there quick. Otherwise, you're gonna deform these connectors. I already ruined a couple. Tried to perfect my technique on the charge lead, and I finally got it. Just a lot different than the XT60s and XT30s. But luckily, the one on the ESC, this one went really smooth, so I'm really happy with that. But Mary had to help me hold things. Usually, I can just solder them up real quick, dealing with the 60s and the 30s. But these 90s that's a whole nother ball game. It seems like. Let's mount this up on the side of the motor box. So I'm just gonna mark where I want the clip, screw it in, and then this just clips on. So it's kind of cool.
And it doesn't come with its own screws. We have to supply it, right?
It did not come with its own screws, but we bought a bunch of stuff yesterday that I think will work really nice. Went over to Cowl Ranch and I found these black chromate
They're number 2.
screws. I don't even, yeah, number 2s actually. So we're gonna go with these little guys. I just happened to have bought these yesterday. Let's get this guy on. That little bracket.
There's no up or down?
There is.
Okay.
You can see these little things that stick up. That's the bottom.
Oh, okay. I see that.
All right, that's it. So now we can just clip this guy on.
There you go. You hear that nice click?
Yep, look at that. Well, maybe only one side clipped in. There. This thing's looking good. I think it's ready to mount on the airplane finally. We took the ESC off. Luckily, we have the quick disconnect clip. And we're gonna mount this to the airplane. We did have an issue, because remember, always check the blind nuts. This lower blind nut had a bunch of junk in it. It had a big, huge burr. So I had to get the tap and die set out and to run the tap in and fixed it. But so far we've needed that tap and die set twice on this airplane, but been a lifesaver. Same thing, metal to metal, we need some Loctite. These are the bolts that come with the kit, come with the carbon cub. It's in the big hardware bag.
With the M4 by 20.
Yep, M4 by 20 with a 3mm hex key. My trusty
Long one?
L. Let's clip this back on. I don't really know the motor direction yet. I'm just
Putting that on.
yeah. Just clipping these in. I did a dry fit with the cowl. We noticed that the capacitors on the ESC were actually hitting inside the cowl. I accidentally mounted it a little too high. So I changed a couple things off camera. I lowered the ESC so that the capacitors will not hit the top of the cowl anymore. So that's just a matter of moving my little bracket down. It's super simple. But one of the bigger changes I made was to the prop adapter. But you can see there's a little shoulder here. Very little shoulder right there. Right here. Very tiny. The spinner back plate rests up against it. And when you tighten it all down, that little shoulder is all that it's resting on.
I see the gap.
Because remember, this whole prop adapter is not the one that came with the motor. We changed the prop adapter. So I don't like that, how it was, when you tighten it all up, it's just resting on that little tiny shoulder. So we went to the hardware store today. We got this nice nylon thick washer. We went to True Value, and about a 10mm inside, and the outside was 3 mils, right?
Yeah, it's about 3
Yeah.
millimeters thick.
3mm thick. So basically what this does is it reinforces that shoulder.
So it sits right on the shoulder.
Yep.
Perfectly.
It's a really nice, nylon spacer. And then what happens now when you tighten this down, you have a lot more surface area You can kind of see the nylon washer in there
Yep.
now, because that gap is always there. But without that nylon washer, you just have that teeny little shoulder there, and I don't like that one bit.
So you're just giving it a little bit more surface area with
Yeah.
the nylon washer.
A little more surface area, a little reinforcement for this spinner back plate. And another thing we noticed, and I'm kind of getting ahead of ourselves here, when we put the propeller on, we actually run out of threads once you get the washer for the prop on. You actually do, it actually sits right about there. So you can see you can't get the nut on now, the prop nut. Luckily, this prop adapter has an inner threaded hole too. So if you go on Horizon's website, you'll see that it's an 8x32 thread. I gotta actually cut some threads off of here. So I'm thinking probably around that,
Okay.
maybe like 6 millimeters, because right now it bottoms out. So yeah, I know we're getting kind of ahead of ourselves here, but there's a lot of fiddly stuff here, especially when you go changing the prop adapter. This is a superior prop adapter, but when you start changing things,
You have to modify stuff.
you gotta modify a couple other things. If you got any questions, like always, just ask me in the comments, and I'll try to help you if you're doing the same motor and prop adapter. Let's move on. I know we're kind of, like I said, we're kind of getting off track here. I do have to solder up an XT90 extension. So even in the manual, it does say you need to solder up an extension, a 6-inch extension, or you can just buy one, but I have all the stuff to solder one up. So I'm just gonna make my own extension.
Because it won't reach the battery.
Yeah, so you're not gonna be able to reach the battery. So
Whatever stock
once it
comes.
goes through your motor box, there it is.
Here, let me see.
I mean, you can't reach it.
Let's see.
You could, but it would not be fun every
Yeah,
time.
you can't even see
It's
it.
not gonna be fun every
The
time.
battery goes right down there.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt. All right, we just got our 6-inch XT90 extension all soldered up, and then I zip tied it like that so it doesn't come undone, because remember, this is going down inside the firewall here. So we're gonna just send it through the top, feeding it in. Now you can see we got this nice this lead in the cockpit here, so we can plug our battery in. ESC is secure. This is obviously the lead that goes into the receiver. We got to run that through here too. Here's the batteries we're using. I ordered these from Hobby King. Look at this beast. You can see I already put my Velcro on the bottom. This thing is massive. We got a 5,000 milliamp 6S.
Rhino?
Just went with 50C. I don't think this is requires anything crazy, as far as it doesn't really require a 100C battery. This battery, they were on sale. They might even still be on sale at Hobby King. They were, I think, 75 bucks. So that's really good price for a 6S 5,000 milliamp XT90, of course. Here's our battery tray. Let's do a quick dry fit here. Let's just see if everything fits. I'm gonna leave the connector or the little safety tape on there. We're just doing a quick test. Mary just can't wait to get this big electrical block in there. To get this in there, you have to open the door. There.
Oh, the bottom first, sorry.
Yeah, the bottom has to come open first always.
And then the window.
Then the window, I guess I could just take it out. Alright, this is gonna be really hard to show you guys. The design of this is this balsa tray slides up into the 2 notches in the firewall. And then this hole is an M3 and it screws into the floor.
And it comes with that screw, of course.
So we got an issue. I actually have to mount the battery sideways, so it's too tall that way. So I gotta lay it on its side.
Oh, I
actually.
see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mary just brought up a good point. I have enough wire to have the lead actually facing backwards.
Maybe that's the whole point.
But yeah, let's do it like that. When you slide the tray in, the motor bolts are protruding through the firewall so much that the motor bolts are now poking the back of the battery.
These are the aftermarket ones that came with this motor.
Well, they came with the motor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you use the ones that came with the plane, they're too long, so that you're gonna have them poking out.
Yep, I can see down there. You see how the bolt sticks out?
So Mary noticed that it's actually only the bottom 2 motor mounts or motor bolts that we have to trim. The top 2 ones are so high that they sit above the battery, but the bottom 2 are they're right there. If this battery shifts at all,
Or you had a hard landing.
Yeah, hard landing or Velcro lets loose or something, you're gonna puncture that battery, and a 6S 5000 milliamp isn't the type of battery you wanna be puncturing with metal screws. So we're gonna play it safe, and I'm gonna trim off, like I said, about 4, maybe 5 millimeters off those 2 bottom ones, and then we'll have clearance.
So we took the bottom 2 off, right? So this is the one you cut.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Shush it.
Yeah, and then you can kind of see where the thread lock is.
Right here.
And the part that does not have the thread lock, that's the part that's sticking out into the cockpit, which is poking into the battery. So basically the thread lock is your cut line. All right, they're both cut. Mary just installed one of them. Just putting the other one back in. Much better. Better safe than sorry.
Slide it in, I want to see.
We're sliding this up in there.
Yeah, I think.
We're getting ready to mount the cowl. So we're just getting the wires kind of out of the way and kind of where we want them. So we're getting ready to put this bad boy on. We're just gonna go by what the directions say. Basically, you put some paper on. We've got some index cards, and they want you to put the edge of your index card right to the edge of the firewall, and then you tape it there. And then when you put the cowl on, it goes under your tape, or sorry, under your paper, and the paper edge lets you know where the edge of the firewall is. So let's get these on there. So we got 4 screws, 4 pieces of paper. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 1, 2, and then probably the same thing on the other side. So this is kind of a tight fit. You just gotta wiggle it on, but it's good that it's a tight fit. And you want your piece of paper over the cowl. So we got it on there. Piece of paper over it.
Yeah.
Let's get our spinner on. So you can see the spacing actually looks pretty good. Something like that maybe. Yeah, see it kind of wants to spring forward. There, that's pretty good. But you also got to make sure your cowl is not twisted that way.
It looks a little twisted.
We're happy with our cowl placement. We're trying to get this all lined up. We got a 2 millimeter gap behind the spinner back plate and the face of the cowl. Remember, the edge of the paper simulates the edge of the firewall, and it's a 6 millimeter firewall. That's what you can kind of see. I made a line, and then my dot is where I want to put a screw. So I'm just putting some tape down so the cowl does not move. 1 millimeter drill bit, they say. I already got it in the gun. Let's see what we can mess up. Kind of scary drilling through the nice fiberglass. Well, there's all the holes. I guess we can put the screws in now. What do you think, Mary? Think we're ready for the screws?
Yeah. I think it looks good.
It's on there. Yeah, it's just with the thrust angle and the mold they made, you can see the fiberglass mold does not perfectly match the backplate. You know, overall it looks really good. Next step is we're going to install the receiver in the floor tray here. So you can see Mary show here. You can see there's a couple of looks like M3 bolts holding a secret door on. So we're going to open up this and the receiver goes down there. We're going to mount our Free Sky X8R down there. You can see we got wires everywhere. We got the floor off, and we're just going to put some extensions on. I got my extension and the shrink tube on the connector. This is the ESC one. I'm sure everybody knows, but just make sure brown wires to the brown wire. It might be a black wire, that's fine. All right, so we got those. I'm going to get some heat shrink. We got to route these. There's 2 holes. I don't know if you're going to see it because it's all black. But there's a hole on each side of the fuselage, one for each servo. Because remember, they want you to put a seat, one of the seats here. So we're actually going to run this guy down through the floor. I don't know if I'm going to be able to reach. Oh yeah. So you just put your hand through the pocket here in the floor. I had it there. You just kind of feed it through. All right, so we got that one.
And then one on the other side.
And then one on the other side. Everything's coming through the belly. If you're running electric, you actually can use the servo hole for the throttle. So there's no servo there because we're running electric, so I'm just gonna put the wire.
Oh, it's right by the door.
Yeah. Right through the floor. The battery connector, I'll just keep that up front there. All right, so you can see we have all 4 leads in the floor now.
Let me see if I can get it. There it is. Cool.
All right, we got our transmitter out. We're gonna power this plane up for the first time. Hopefully we don't get a lot of smoke or a fire. We've double checked everything. It's all looking good. We got our motor plugged in. All the little nuts are off of the shaft. You don't want them to go spinning off. But let's power this up, see what happens.
Telemetry recovered.
Okay, so there were 6 beeps. So the 6 beeps recognize that it is a 6-cell battery, so that's good. And I heard the servos kind of chattering. They are digital servos. So yeah, there's the elevator. See what the rudder's doing. Okay, so that's all working. Motor. Oh, that is going the correct way. So counterclockwise, we want it spinning towards us. So looking good.
Nice.
Yeah. Everything's nice and cool. I mean, it's not under load, but if we had a heat issue right now, then something's pretty bad. That's really good. So everything's looking good. We can start buttoning everything up.
Have you thought about where you're gonna put them?
Nah, kind of. Nothing
put a little
special.
Velcro?
Yeah, just Velcro it right to the floor. That's the receiver tray. We're still wiring up the receiver and all the extensions. We got the wire harnesses out. So you need a wire harness for your ailerons and your flaps. At least that's how we're doing it. But anyway, we're gonna get our wire harnesses plugged in. And then I do have these, like a wing harness. Basically, when you take your wings on and off, you're gonna plug in these connectors. So you're gonna have something like that sticking out of the fuselage, and then this will be sticking out of the wing. And then you just unplug one big harness. Just unplugging little servo leads constantly is gonna wear them out, and it just gets old doing these multiple harnesses.
Yeah.
But this is a better solution. You just have one big plug. So we're gonna start running all these wires and just trying to tuck them away.
You bought these on eBay?
Yeah, I got them from some guy on eBay. Here, you can show the little.
Valley View RC, and it's dual servo wing harness.
Yeah. So. And you'll need one set per side. So
you have to get 2.
Yeah, so 2 setups.
Don't just buy one and.
First step, let's get our wire harnesses on in the receiver, and then we're gonna start feeding these through the floor. Back here through the holes where the rudder and the tail.
Okay, so you found that you could probably feed
I think
it
I can
there.
fit these through that hole in the back there.
Okay.
So we just got a lot of wiring, and it's not really anything we can show you. And you know, your setup might be different, so we're just gonna start going here and
see how it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Flaps at flight mode 1. Flight mode normal.
So we're running the wires here, just trying to figure out, you know, where the wires go and all the harnesses. Just doing a test run here. Mary figured out that you can separate the wires in the harness, and you can kind of figure out where they're going here. So once it goes through the harness box here, it's hard to tell, but Mary figured out you can separate them. So let's plug it in, and we're just trying to figure out which one's the aileron, and then we're marking them for when we do the final hookup. So hopefully. All right, so we got the wires figured out which way we're running here, and we're just gonna mark which one's which.
You could see if you hold it, they kind of separate into 2 bundles.
Yeah.
And they just kind of line up.
And you'll notice that it is red, white, and blue, and brown, red, and yellow. The colors don't mean really much. All you gotta do is you gotta make sure you designate one color for, you know, the same color over here. I don't know if I'm explaining it good, but basically I've designated the blue as the brown wire. So make sure whatever color you pick, that you always plug it into the same orientation. So my blue is the dark color for me. That's just how I picked it. I can remember it like that. And then this one, same thing. We have an aileron and a flap left. And we got the shrink tube. So we're gonna shrink tube these joints closed. Everything's hooked up. And we've got our wing extensions. I just got them set here right out the window for now. And everything should just go in there. I know it's a big mess. I'm gonna tuck it off to the side and then we're gonna adhere the receiver down. Mary had a great idea. We're trying to figure out how to adhere the diversity antennas. These little PCB boards are coated in, I think, in silicone or something. Nothing is sticking to it. So Mary had a great idea. She got some of her boba straws, and what we're gonna do is slip them in there. It just holds it, and then adhere these plastic boba straws down below.
With hot glue?
There's Mary's idea in action.
Just the bigger straws?
Yellow boba straws, yeah, the bigger straws. All right, everything's buttoned up down there, so we're gonna just put the floor back on. Looking nice and tidy, so we're done down there.
Okay.
One more shot. All right, so the floor just clips back into the little notched things. We got the floor bolts. We're gonna do a taxi test now, actually, because now that our electronics are all set, the motor's mounted, ESC's mounted, I want to test the springs on the tail gear.
Because you thought the ones that came with the
Yeah, the
kit
ones
were
that come
a
with it
little too
are, I mean, they're really weak. Just putting them on, the coil's stretched a little too much, and they're kind of
But you
already
got-
jacked up.
But these are something else, right?
Yeah, these are just some upgraded springs from True Value. Thanks to Arizona RC, he commented, he's one of our viewers and subscribers, he commented in the comment that if those springs are too weak, True Value's got a great selection of springs, so thank you. That's where I got these. Another thing we're gonna do before we go taxi test outside is I noticed in, I think, was it our last video? The wheel has a little slop inside the hub.
Yeah, you weren't happy
So
with
right
that.
here, look.
Yeah.
So that's inside the hub, and I can't deal with that. So I already upgraded other wheel. I'm gonna show you the after.
Oh, so you just got some nylon
So yeah,
washers?
it's perfectly shimmed up. And what you gotta do is you gotta put this inside the wheel hub. So I'm actually gonna take this one off. I already did that one. I wanted to show you the difference. Again, True Value. Go into the nylon washer section. This was about 2 millimeters.
Thick?
Yep. And then the hub, or the inside diameter, whatever the shaft is, it's like a 4, yeah, about 4 millimeter. Yep, like a 4 mil. But anyway, all right, so we got the wheel off. So you can see the slop is inside the hub. So we've got the hub apart. Basically, it came apart like that.
Okay.
You don't want this on the short side because that goes in there like that. You actually want this little washer, one right here on the longer side. So now when you put the wheel back together, see,
There's
the
no slop.
axle doesn't have slop anymore, but it still spins. So that nylon washer right there does a world of difference. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Cool, let's put it back together. All right, there it is. So we got the washer in there, and you can see no slop on that axle anymore. Okay, time to mount the propeller for our taxi test. We're using a Zoar, I think that's how you say it. That's how it looks like you would say it. XOAR. It is made of beechwood, very high quality, 16 by 10. And we also have one in black. So same prop, same beechwood, it's just painted in black. Looks really cool.
And those are specifically for the electric motors?
Yeah, so these are electric wooden props. So normally wooden props are for gas or glow. These are very specific for electric. So you can see the hubs are thinner and smaller right here. So this is an electric prop, and I think it might even say, oh, here we go. E 16 by 10. So electric 16 by 10. But yeah, anyway, let's mount these up. We talked about a little bit about this nylon washer I put on here. it gives the spinner back plate more of a surface area to push against
Because there's that little...
versus that little tiny shoulder. Get that guy on there. Let's get our prop on. When you put the drive washer on, you can see there's not enough threads to use the nut anymore. So luckily, this prop adapter has internal threads, and you get looks like about a 6mm 832 pitch. It goes right in the center because there's center threads. And that should be it for your prop. Word of caution here, that prop adapter is soft aluminum, so you don't need to be wrenching on it like a gorilla. All right, taxi test time. We tried doing the taxi test yesterday, but it was way too windy out. It was probably gusting 40 miles an hour. The tail wouldn't move. But anyway, we're gonna put the battery in. I made a quick little down and dirty thumb screw out of some old fuel tubing and the stock bolt. So I cut a little fuel tubing piece as a washer to hold the metal washer, and then another bigger piece to act as a thumb screw. So I'm gonna use this until I get something better, because it's tough to get a little wrench in there. That's tricky to get that battery in there. All right, let's see if we can get a tail wheel test here. You can see the tail wheel doesn't move much because those springs are so light. Oh, it steers. It gets into the deeper stuff. It's coming around.
Oh, yeah, I think it's working.
Getting into the deeper rocks.
Oh, I see it.
It's gonna come onto the cement so it's out.
That was fun.
So it works. I think I would prefer a little more. It works nice on like hard surface, obviously, but it's a bush plane, and it's supposed to go in the rocks.
Well, it's also a tiny, tiny wheel.
Yeah, they do make bigger upgraded wheel kits. She's got some power too. So right now we have the battery at storage voltage, just doing for testing purposes here, so it's not at a full charge, but we can do a kind of a pull test here, give you an idea what full throttle is going to be. So it's got some good pull. Let's see if we can fit on the stiffer springs and see if we can make those work. Taxi test number 2, we got the upgraded springs on there. I don't really want to say upgraded, they're just a little stiffer. Remember, we got them from True Value. So you can see, maybe tell they're a little different.
Yeah.
A little bigger.
Yeah, they're definitely.
You can see the tail wheel actually moves a lot more now, just sitting static. Let's see if it'll power through dirt a little better. Let's go that way. Yeah, they seem to be working a lot better. Yeah, way better on this new stuff. But it's taxiing nice. See how it comes up like that?
Yeah, that's
Give it too much juice. All right.
Engine off.
So we got our throttle safe on. I think a very successful taxi test. I like those upgraded springs a lot better. What do you think, Mary?
Yeah.
Did you notice the
It
difference?
seemed more responsive.
Yeah, it seemed more responsive. This isn't really the ideal gravel to test it in, so it's kind of a good test in a way.
Yeah, because you know if you could get through this.
Yeah, and I don't
through just
plan
about
on
anything.
flying in any big rocks. It's just, if you happen to get stuck in some, deeper stuff, you'll still have a little bit of control. But I'm really happy with that taxi test. That's gonna do it for build video number 4. Thanks for watching, everybody. we got a lot done. I know it might not seem like a lot, but once you get to the electronic stage and you start having to run wires, and it's a lot of test fitting, and then you get to the next step and you're like, okay, the previous step I just did isn't going to work. So it was a lot of undoing and doing and redoing. And
yeah, these ARFs are a learning
What's that?
experience. I said these ARFs are a learning experience, to put it nicely.
Yeah, I mean, they're a great learning experience. You know, once you step up from those ready to fly foamies to an ARF like this, you definitely, you know, you're planning everything out yourself. I'm definitely not ready for a kit or anything like that. I think my head would explode if we had to do a kit and build this from scratch. But we're having a blast. I hope you guys are enjoying the videos. If you have any questions or anything about what we're doing or what we used for equipment or whatever, just you know, the comments and let us know. I think that's it. Do you have anything else to say, Mary, about the build video number 4? No?
No, I'm excited to, well, it was a frustrating video, but I'm excited to finish it up and get her flying.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be one more build video, just buttoning things up, doing the CG,
Windows.
do the final shrinking
yep.
the covering and the windows. So there's not too much left, and then it'll be the maiden. So, but I think one more build video. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next video.